So there's one thing I wanted to show you guys as well. So there was a lot of talk on like, hey, how do we get the floors disappearing in a MASH network, and how do we just add to it, or like how do we build out that system? So I'm doing something a little bit different, but we've got this character, and this is a cool way to do it because you see we've got the character as they move. The MASH network is actually still there. So the MASH network is only ever going to be under their feet. And regardless of the position that the MASH network is moving, you can see that the floor is always going to be stacked. And it doesn't really matter the shape of the mesh. So if I like change this back to a sphere, it's nice and normal. I'm going to do the same thing with this guy. I'm just going to offset this a smidgen. And then go back to its parent constraint and update that just so I've got a nice offset. All right, so what's going on here? Let's cache this out. Oopsie. Did I break my camera? I did. All right. So how did I do it? So this is a nice cool way to work. Just letting it cache out its thing. So what it is, let me turn off my strength node. So I'm using a strength node instead of an offset with the projection on a transparency. So I actually have a MASH network that is the entire floor, and I'm using this strength node with a couple of fall-off objects. So I've got two fall-off objects inside of the same thing, and they're only affecting scale. I can have them affect position if I wanted to, but it's fine. And this strength node, what it does is that it basically overrides every single strength input under it. So if I go and I make like an offset and I start messing around with scale here, the scale's not going to do anything if this is under where it is. So it's basically affecting everything outside, or not inside of this thing. So as I bring my scale up, you can see it does mess around with what's in here. But if I turn off the strength node, it'll affect everything. It's just that we're not seeing it. So that's kind of neat. That's kind of one of the good overrides. So this strength node is kind of just playing out what's on the floor under my character as they move around this environment. So you can see, like, regardless of where they go, there is always this little bit of a MASH network under their feet. So we hide these. Yeah, it looks a little bit more natural that way. So to build this, right? I'm gonna go new scene. Just make sure, yeah. To build this, I'm gonna go new scene. I'm gonna just make some cubes. And how we were doing it in class was we made like a MASH network, just to go over this again, so we've got it all, we understand what we're doing. What we were doing was something like this with an offset. The offset was bringing everything up like 2 points or something like that, using an offset object, creating a fall off. There we go. And you can see, like, as this moves, it does that. And what we were doing was we assigned a material based on a projection. So material, let's just do opacity on a ramp. Okay. Oh, not on a ramp, sorry. Opacity needs to be based on a projection. I want interactive placement of it, so I have it in the scene, and then I add my ramp. There we go. And now I just line it up to where it starts to be gone. So something like this would work. Transparency doesn't really work in Arnold for viewport unless or on objects generally. There you go. So you can see transparency is not really working. And it's because we need to go into this Arnold check and make sure that opaque is off, and then it should update. but maybe it's not going to. That's fine. Regardless, this is kind of how it works. Let's do 5, so it's a little smaller. Yeah, there we go. And then that's how you can turn stuff on and off. Pretty easy. So the way I was doing it just now, though, was instead I had it based on a plane. Let's turn off this offset. So on my plane, that was my mesh, and I was scattering everything on the mesh. Instead, I would just being like that, I used a voxel so that it gets everywhere. And let's just line it up so that they're in the position. There we go. So they're just a little smaller, and then I use what was called the strength node. Strength. There we go. Fall off object, create a fall off object. And you see now it only affects what's in those areas. Remember that you can use like something like this. So if I made like a sphere, right? You want to like make a design in here. I can always make a MASH network of spheres. Let's just do radial on let's do ZX, so it's kind of on the ground, and then we'll do like let's do a random, just so we've got a little bit of like different locations for them. Okay, that's so much. Let's do like that. We can always go and grab these, and if we go into this fall off, we can change this to mesh, and then in the connections we can have a shape in. So I can use another MASH network. So you see that I can use another MASH network, or I can use other objects to create. I guess I should unhide this. Oh, right. Cannot move a MASH network that way. I need to make it transform. And then on my transform, I'm going to have this transform be tied to this strength node. Okay. So I'm going to bring that strength node scale back down to 1. And now if I move that around, there we go. Perfect. So we can always like build out patterns of things we want to hide as well. So that's another way we can do a lot of this work. So that's kind of cool. I don't know. Figure there's some other cool things we can do. So yeah, hopefully that helps.